episode 1 of explained ed. We'll go into the naming conventions later.
explAInED.
Something like that.
Yeah,
That sounds about
We'll
right.
probably just end up calling it explained, right?
explained.
Maybe.
Or explained. explAInED.
explAInED. Well, we'll figure it out.
explAInED.
We'll figure it out as we go. But my name is Mike Barry, and I'm joined by a fabulous colleague and educator, Renee, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. And then Sean's here as well. So Renee, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Renee Langevin.
Oh, and I'm Sean Langer.
There you go. Yep. Solid. That's exactly what I expected anyways. All right. So on episode 1, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to explore AI in education, AI in life, ask some silly questions, learn as much as we can because there's so much out there. It's moving so fast. So Renee, one of her magical skills is finding excellent people. So we've got a guest coming today, Adam Sparks. And Renee, can you tell us a little bit about Adam and what he does?
Sure. I met Adam. We had him come to our district to do some work with AI and writing instruction. And Adam was a teacher. He is the co-creator of Short Answer, which is a writing a writing instruction software. And he goes around the country talking about AI in education and specifically around writing.
Nice. And Sean, can you tell us a little bit about what happens in that writing system?
Sure. Short answer. So the way it works is, the teacher creates a question, and the kids get a join code, and they join the room where the question is, and the teacher can decide, like, okay, we're going to focus on good topic sentences in our paragraph or whatever. So they can list the goals of, like, clear topic sentence that says the subject or whatever it is. And then the kids sign in. They would, like, write there, or, well, the kids don't sign in actually. The kids join. They don't need accounts. And then they do their writing. And then one of the modes, when the kids are all done, the teacher, like, starts the mode where they start comparing each other. So 2 responses will come up on the screen, and then the kids choose which one meets the objectives best in their opinion. And then all that voting happens. They'll vote several times, and then you get down to, like, the final 4, the final 2, and it's pretty exciting.
Nice.
And then there's, like, one response that's selected as the best response.
It's like rock, paper, scissors, except with writing.
Yeah, yeah, like that. It's kind of like a battle royale.
Nice.
Like a gamified way to get kids to collaborate on their writing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, you could call it collaborating in that they're giving each other feedback.
Right. Peer-to-peer feedback. All right, well, let's go see what Adam has to say. Well, welcome, Adam Sparks, to the explAInED, the podcast that we're doing. We have notoriously poor habits when it comes to naming shows. That's a thing for us, so we're just going to roll with that. But can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to be here, and I'm honored that you have me as your first guest. I think this is cool. Yeah, my name's Adam Sparks. I was a classroom teacher for 7 years. I taught middle and high school social studies and English mostly in Nebraska, which is where I'm from, but wildly varied contexts in Nebraska, China, and Chicago for about 7 years. And then 2 years ago, I finished my master's at Stanford in their Learning Design and Technology program. And in that program, you spend a year trying to solve a problem in education using technology. Problem I wanted to work on was just, like, as a humanities teacher, I spent a lot of time giving kids feedback, and then they would ignore all the feedback and look at their grade and move on. And so literally the original impetus for what became Short Answer, the tool that we're building now, is just like, how do you get kids to think about feedback? And so we built this thing. We called it Short Answer. It was supposed to be my master's project. And then we got some grant funding and decided maybe we could try it as a startup, and we launched it oh man, almost 2 years ago now, I guess. And we put it into the hands of teachers, and they were like, "This is a great writing tool. We're basically only using it for writing instruction." And so we said, "Tell us more." And it's just kind of like it's just my wife and I building is just spiraled us down this path of working with schools on writing instruction. And given that our current moment in AI has completely upended K-12 writing instruction and assessment. And so it's been a very interesting time to be working with schools on writing. And so as a part of our work, we offer workshops with schools on how do we adjust K-12 writing instruction and assessment in a world where a machine can now write for kids. So that's a brief history of me and my career and like the work I do now. And I'm happy to dive into any and all of it or talk AI or wherever you want to take the conversation.
Well, it was kind of interesting what you said about the time and the culture right now around writing and AI. I think Sean, Renee, and I are all in a place where there's an instant fear around AI and writing. But one of the things that we've been starting with in conversations is, what does AI mean to you?
Yeah.
Like, how do you define AI? And what does that mean to the work that you're doing, but also to yourself? Like, how do you define AI? I say AI to some people here, and it's immediately witchcraft, and like we have to stay far away from that. But then there's other conversations where people are using it to leverage everything. And so what does AI mean to you, and how are you using it?
Wow. I've never been asked that. That's a really good question. I mean, when you say AI to me in 2025, I know AI has been around for a long time, in different forms. We can go back to, I know I've seen people talk about like Clippy, the little like bot that popped up in Microsoft tools. It was kind of annoying and didn't really work like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. AI has been around in different forms for a long time. And I don't want to just gloss over all of that. But when you ask me what is AI in 2025, my mind immediately goes to large language model powered AI that has created this boom in the last 2 to 3 years. It started with the launch of ChatGPT, which is just it's a large language model, and we can get into what that is if you want to. But and how generative AI tools like that, large language models are generally for text, but you can apply very similar technology to images and to video. And I know, Sean, you've done some really cool stuff with video generation and things that you've done at your school. But so that's immediately where my mind goes. And when you talk about like, what are your perceptions of those types of tools? Because I know, like you said, teachers often default to doom and gloom. And I want to recognize that those perspectives are valid. And I totally get when we lead our workshops with schools. I think I did this with Essex Western when we went and what led it with you all, but it was literally like, here's the spectrum of enthusiasm. On one side, we've got like Terminator 2. AI is going to destroy humanity, critical thinking, the planet, you name it. And it's just like greedy capitalists that are here to replace people's jobs and et cetera, et cetera. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's the people that I tend to spend probably too much time with, which is like AI is going to save the planet. It's going to solve all of our intractable problems. And we'll never have to work again, and everyone will have universal income, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm very much in the middle, very intentionally. Like if you're coming at AI from the perspective of it's going to save the world, I want to try to pull you towards the center a little bit more. And if you think it's going to destroy humanity and critical thinking and our kids will never learn anything again, I'm going to try to pull you more towards the middle of like, there's actually a lot of opportunities with AI. And so that becomes the challenge for school districts. Then I think it's like, how do we mitigate the challenges and the flaws that are real? And then I think it's legitimate for teachers to worry about. But also like, how do we tap into the opportunities? Because there is a ton of opportunity afforded to us with the efficiency and some of the other, to use it like a nerdy tech term, but like the affordances of AI are, I think really there's a ton of potential. So, and I'm happy to talk about what I think those are, but that was a long-winded way of answering your question. But so I guess a high-level summary there is I'm a radical centrist when it comes to AI, and I would encourage other people to be a radical centrist with me. And when you say AI in 2025, my mind immediately goes to like large language model powered AI tools.
That was probably the best version of that answer that we'll ever record. Oliver, that was really great.
Thanks.
I think one thing that you brought up early that was really interesting to me is the I don't want to call it irony, but you working with an AI tool in writing is particularly central to kind of some of the misconceptions that people may have about AI. How do you how do you approach that? Maybe you just answer that with being in the center, but like what does that look like when you're interacting with people, in particular around writing?
Well, the first thing I would say is short answer is not an AI tool. But this is what's been funny about it is like we're a peer-to-peer experience, and very intentionally. But people have used short answer to address some of the challenges that have been presented to writing instruction in the wake of AI. And specifically, what I mean by that is, um, school districts, or especially English teachers, are trying to bring more writing back into the classroom. And that hasn't necessarily been a natural flow for, if you're a high school 11th grade, composition teacher, you're used to doing your longer form writing that necessarily needs to leave the classroom. Well, once writing leaves the classroom, it's very hard to tell how much of an influence AI had on that student's process. So a lot of teachers are trying to bring more writing back into the classroom, and necessarily that needs to be shorter in nature, but if you're going to do it in a 50-minute class period. So a lot of teachers use short answer to support that in-class writing piece. And then increasingly, and this is something that's been advocated for decades, I just think it's more relevant now. Schools are trying to embed more writing across the curriculum. And so if you're going to ask your math or your science or electives teachers to do writing, it needs to be really simple and short and stuff where they can just teach their content through writing, where like the science teacher doesn't want to do a subject verb agreement lesson, for example. So it's just like, how can we just do some really low lift ways of increasing those writing reps that kids are getting? Because increasingly with AI, something I do worry about is like, as it's embedded across every platform that kids use every day, they're going to get even less writing practice than they're already getting, and they're already not getting enough. So making up for those lost reps by embedding it across the curriculum has been a need that short answer, I think, has started to serve as well. And so that's in the use case of like, I don't want my kids using AI. So, and I want to sort of mitigate some of the challenges of AI. So here's how you could use short answer or other tools to do that. But then when you're thinking about, okay, the other side of the spectrum, it's 2025, kids are going to be using AI once they leave school and once they go into the workforce. And this is a skill we need to develop in kids. Then I think it's like creating and demonstrating for students like targeted and effective use cases for AI in their writing. And so when we lead workshops, I just kind of there's a framework for writing instruction called the 6 Traits of Writing. Is it popular in Vermont? Have you all?
It was for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it's kind of gone out of vogue for whatever reason, but it's the one that I reference because it seems like people are at least familiar with it. And so there's like these 6 different buckets of what effective writing looks like. And so then we break that out into like, so one of them is like ideas is one of the 6 buckets. So then within ideas, it's like, here's a bunch of different use cases about how we could use AI to help kids develop their ideas in their paper. And the one that I like to demo a lot in our workshops is like a debate bot, essentially. And so it's like, okay, if your kids are writing a persuasive essay about X topic, like should cell phones be allowed in schools? I can create a chat bot that's going to like have you copy paste in your thesis or whatever your essential arguments are. And it's going to take that in and argue with you and try to poke holes in whatever you're trying to argue for. And then it's your job as a student to address some of the flaws that might be in your argument or that the chatbot is pointing out to you. There's a tool called explAInED that we use to demo that use case that I really like and would be happy to talk more about. So it's just like, it's sort of that, it's almost like the gradual release of responsibility framework. It's like, as a teacher, I'm going to demo sort of the I do phase is like, I'm going to show you how you could use AI for this specific use case where it's like challenging your ideas or your beliefs. Okay, great. I've shown you how you can do that effectively. Now I'm going to use a tool like explAINED for you to interact with AI in a safe way, and just on this like demoing this specific use case. And in that way, it's like the philosophy that we talk about in our workshops is like AI is in the loop, but ultimately the teacher is in charge. So the teacher is setting the expectations up front of how it can be used and modeling what effective use looks like, and sort of using that gradual release of responsibility framework to hopefully do it in a safe and effective way for kids. I'm talking a lot. I feel like I'm just like rambling.
But that's actually kind of ironic since your product is short answer. Yeah.
I apologize for Sean.
I joke all the time because I am extremely, well, sorry, that's redundant to say that I'm extremely loquacious, but but I am loquacious, so I apologize. I have a tendency to ramble.
No, it's perfect. Yeah.
It's actually a podcast that we're recording. You speaking. It's actually nearly the purpose of the whole thing.
Makes a lot of sense. Do you ever worry, like, as the models get more advanced, that human writing won't really have the same value?
Yes and no. That's a really good question.
Take your time.
Yes and no, and so the yes piece is like, it's already happening. People whose jobs is primarily to write stuff is those jobs are increasingly. It's not that they're going away; it's that one person can do the job of 10 people. So it's like, because it's making you more efficient, it's going to have less demand for people that write. And when I say write, I mean, like, I'm not talking about necessarily fiction and nonfiction, and like, I'm talking like writing copy for a website, or like writing emails, or sort of like, I don't want to say formulaic, but more like, I guess, formulaic writing and things like that. But I still think that there will always be inherent human value in writing. And I say that as someone who's like, it's been interesting. So I did my master's at Stanford, and that's where Short Answer started. And then I left, but then we came right back because my wife got into a grad program here. And so I'm actually talking with you all from a dorm room right now, here at Stanford. And so my wife studies data science here, and it's been interesting to just kind of watch her go through the program. Because there's been a few moments where she's submitted assignments to professors, or to TAs, and they've used AI to give her feedback. And she was disappointed in that, because like, she didn't want AI feedback. Like, she wanted to know what the, world leading professor actually thought about what she created, and not what AI had to say. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think it's an example of why I think there is inherent human value in like like actually still writing things. Cause like, people want to know what other people think. I think, and there's like research to support this. So if you ever read oh man, the last name is Yeager. He's at the University of UT Austin. But his research is on wise feedback. And wise feedback, I'm going to oversimplify it, is basically just like, when you give kids feedback and you leave a comment at the beginning that basically just says like, hey, I care about you, and because I care about you, here's some feedback about how you can improve your paper, versus just you provide the feedback on how to improve the paper. Kids are much more likely to uptake and use the feedback when you provide that empathetic comment, or when you establish that you care about the child. And what I think a high level takeaway of that research, of the wise feedback research, is just like, intentions matter. And so, when a human writes something, there's a certain intentionality that comes with that I don't think that AI will ever be able to replicate. And sorry, I'm like rambling, so interrupt me, but my parents run a wedding venue. This is going to sound tangential, but I promise I'll land this plane. And oh, sorry, go ahead, Sean. Yeah.
No, I was just thinking, like, the other day I was trying to Google like a really specific image, and something from like pop culture. It was like Cowboy Bebop or something, and there was a ton of like AI generated images that were similar, and I was like, I hate this. Like, I want to see like what humans have made. And like, I was listening to a podcast, and they were like, oh yeah, one day AI will be able to make your like you'll have a 6-minute Game of Thrones or a 1-hour Game of Thrones, and I'm like, that's just not interesting to me. Like, to have it made up by a computer. I want to know what I want to hear from other people, and I want to see what they make. But
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. And there's just certain endeavors, I guess I would say, that are just, there's inherent human value beyond if AI can do it or not. Like, I was listening to a podcast recently. It's like AI, I don't remember, it was like Deep Blue, is like IBM's model. Like, it beat the world's grandmaster at chess like 10 years ago. Machines have been better at chess than humans for a while now, but people still play chess, like, because chess is fun, and there's like just inherent value and like and fun in doing it. And so that's why I think there will always be value in human generated writing. And yeah, the story I was going to share about my parents' wedding venue is like, so I work as a bartender there in the summertime as a little side hustle. And so I listen to a lot of, some really good and oftentimes really bad, like speeches from people that are in the wedding ceremony, you know, like, bridesmaids and best men and blah, blah, blah. And there was one time where, a bridesmaid came up and she was like talking about how she had ChatGPT write the speech that she just gave. And it was like the most soul crushing thing that I was just like, you're speaking at your sister's wedding and like you didn't even write it. Like you had a machine write it. Like there was something about that to me that just was like wrong. Like, and this it was an example of why I think we still need to develop writing skills in students, even though writing can now be done, you know, at least in theory by a machine. It's like, you need to be able to communicate your feelings and your emotions and who you are, and AI can help you do that, but if it's doing it for you and not with you, like you're losing your voice, you're losing your ability to express like real meaning in the world. You know, like speaking at your sister's wedding, that's like one of the maybe like 10 most, you know, I don't know, not influential, I don't know what the word is, but like impactful moments of your life, and you're going to sort of outsource it to AI. I was like depressed with that. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying I think there's inherent human value in writing that will always be there.
I'm finding too that recently I've been working with teenagers on revising their cover letters for their internships. And, you know, we're having that discussion with them, like, this piece of writing has to have your voice. But the encouraging thing was that they were actually super critical of what the AI was providing to them. They were like, no, you know, I'm going to stick with what I have. I really like what I have better than what the AI suggested. And I'm like, that's great. But it's trying to get, especially writing teachers, to understand how to outsource the efficiency stuff.
Yep.
While still keeping that. And like you said, like I noticed that writing across the curriculum doesn't tend to happen, at least in my high school. I'm guessing that's true of many high schools.
It is.
But and I have my ideas about this too, but I wanted to ask you, like, what kind of mistaken thinking do you think students have or teachers have when they think about AI use in school?
Well, I mean, immediately my mind goes to just like, because for so many kids, and this is the mistaken thinking, it's really not even about AI. It's like school is just a hoop they have to jump through. So like assignments just become check boxes that they have to check off, that they don't see the value in the information. And so because of that, it's like, oh, look, now there's this easy button I can press and it'll just do it for me. And so I think, you know, there is research to support the idea. So Victor Lee and, if people that are listening, if they just type in like Victor Lee and Denise Pope, Stanford research on cheating, and this study will come up. But anyway, these couple of researchers at Stanford, they found that cheating has not increased in the wake of AI. But part of the reason cheating has not increased is because baseline levels for cheating were already really high. And baseline levels for cheating were already really high because of what we're talking about. Like, so many kids just view schoolwork as like this thing that has no value. It's just something that we force them to do. So they just got to check off the box and keep moving. And so that's the mistaken thinking that has always been there, even before AI, that I think we need to address with our kids, of like the inherent human value of whatever it is that we're developing with kids, whether it's their ability to write or, you know, understand history or mathematical concepts or science, or you name your subject. And you know, that's always been the challenge of teaching. It's like, how do you motivate kids to want to do this stuff? But yeah, technically they have to be there, but like education is the most effective lever we have in improving the human condition. And but sometimes it's hard to get kids to to see that, especially, you know, a moody 16-year-old who in 2025 is like, well, why should I learn how to do this now that the machine can do it for me? Which is a very legitimate question, but sorry, I don't even know if I answered your question, but like,
You did.
the thinking that we have to combat is just that thinking that school is just a checkbox I have to, check off. And any tool that can help me do that, like AI, is great because it'll just do it for me. Yeah, I guess I'll stop there. But and I do worry about that, especially like there was a new tool released about a month ago now that I'm surprised I don't see more dialogue around, because I think it's going to be even more cataclysmic for K-12 educators than ChatGPT has been. And it's this tool called Operator. Have you all heard of Operator? It's like,
Yes, I've heard of it, and we, watched some videos of someone like signing on to a learning platform and telling the AI to complete all the tasks and submit all the assignments. And
yes. So for those that are listening, don't do it. Operator is basically, it's OpenAI has created it. And it's AI that can just run a web browser. So you tell it what you want it to do, and it can go and operate a web browser entirely autonomously. And so what Sean was just describing, I saw maybe the same video, is like, hey, log into Canvas for me. I got to do a quiz for this class. Can you do it for me? And it will literally log in, fill out all the questions, including open-ended response questions and discussion prompts, and submit it. And it got 100%. And you can do the same thing for papers. That was so like when we lead workshops, we talk a lot about how AI detection software doesn't work. And so we need to use revision tracking. And I still do think revision tracking is the best tool that we have right now to monitor AI influence on student writing once it leaves the classroom. But now, once a tool like Operator becomes widespread, which, to be clear, it's not widespread yet. It still costs like $200 a month, and like it's not widely available. But you're going to be able to, be like, hey, I want you to write me a paper about X topic, and I want you to create it over the course of, 3 days, a couple hours at a time. And I want you to make sure you do it all in the same Google Doc so that the revision history looks like I edited it. And now all of a sudden the machine can write a paper, and the revision history really is meaningless because they used Operator to simulate the revision history. So now it's just an endless game of whack-a-mole for teachers of like, well, now how do I monitor AI influence on student work? So yeah, as these autonomous agents become more widespread, I think the issue, Renee, that you just brought up of like, or that we were just talking about, of like students viewing school as a checkbox that they have to just complete, like we're going to have to be even more intentional about it, because there's going to be even better tools to help them check off the boxes, so to speak.
I think to Adam, when you talked about like what Short Answer does, that it's not being an AI, but it's approaching the pedagogy in a different way, like bringing the writing back into the classroom, focusing on the process. I think that especially at the high school level, I'm finding that's not where we're at with it. And we need to get back to that, because I think it is a legitimate question. And sometimes without a lot of popularity, I pose that question to my teachers, like, if an AI can do this so easily and so well, is it a valid task for a student to do? And it's totally valid for kids to ask that. Like,
yeah,
why would I work harder, like, if I don't have to?
Right. It is. It's valid for kids to ask it, but it's also like valid that kids still need to learn foundational skills. Like,
Absolutely.
increasingly, there's a lot of debate right now around what does AI literacy mean? And for me, and I'm kind of parroting. So Jane Rosenzweig is like the head of Harvard's writing project, whatever, but she's amazing. And she has a great Substack that everybody should go read. And I'm parroting her right now. She's like, to me, AI literacy is basically just the kids have enough background knowledge in whatever content or skill that they're doing, that when AI produces something, they know how to make sense of that output, or they know how to change it. To your point, Renee, of like the kids that were writing, I don't know what you said, like cover letters. Yeah. And AI produced this thing, and they were like, I don't like that because that doesn't sound like me. Well, those kids sound like that they've already developed some foundational writing skills where they're able to recognize my voice and who I am. And so they can actually make sense of that. But if you've got a kid that doesn't have that skill and hasn't developed and have an understanding of what their writing voice is, when AI produces writing, it's like, oh, that sounds pretty good, I'll just use that. And they don't even realize that it sounds like just generic, kind of garbage ChatGPT language. So for me, AI literacy is literally just having enough background knowledge and skill in something to be able to make use of AI outputs if and when you use it. Because if you don't have that, it can really lead you down the wrong path very quickly. Yeah. Anyway.
I think that would be true of any kind of cheating, you know, like in a way, you know, obviously AI is revolutionary, but also in a way, it's just like anything else that came along, like when the calculator came along or Wikipedia or, you know, it's just another avenue where students could cut corners, but, you
Yeah.
know, used in, like you said, when they have those foundational skills, it can be such a powerful tool to use in the classroom for sure.
100%.
I heard a great quote at some point in our AI adventures here where somebody said, you know, I want AI to do my laundry and my dishes so that I have more time to paint and read.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, so it's like, how do you figure out what those things are in terms of everything? I was just thinking, for folks that are listening, can you describe a bit more about your system and how it speaks to all of this and what happens in it and how students interact and it's peer based and all of that, just so that folks have that baseline?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have done that earlier, probably. So
That's
short,
what editing's for.
short answer is like the fastest way to get it across, because a lot of people have this schema already in their brain, is it's kind of like Kahoot. In that, I mean, it's very different, but just mechanically, like kids sign in with a code, you send out a writing prompt or a question to them. All the kids respond. So it's all short form writing, maybe 1 to 2 paragraphs, maybe 3 if you're feeling crazy. And then once the kids all submit it and the teacher's got all the writing, they click begin feedback, and we've got a bunch of different activities, but they're pushing the writing back to the class. And now all the kids are seeing each other's writing, and they're providing gamified feedback to each other. So in most examples, that's just like, here's 2 of your classmates' responses. Which one does a better job of having X criteria? So like, which one has a better job of a topic sentence? And when they click that one, it awards points, and then they get 2 more, and they keep doing these comparisons. And there's a variety of activities, but that's one. And so we average all of that to then kick out a feedback report to the kids, and create a class level feedback report for the teacher. So it's this short form in class gamified writing, but I think the core part of it that I think is effective in this new era of AI is that it's human to human. It's an authentic audience for student work. It's like, oh my gosh, I wrote this thing and now I'm sharing it with other people, and the other people are seeing it and reacting to it. Oh my gosh. And I think that there's just something inherently engaging about that, to kids, but also just to humans. Like, it's part of the reason that I post things on my Substack and like get on Twitter, and like, it's like you want to interact with other people and have them interact with you. And sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was like, yeah, well, it's not, and for in a classroom, it's not just other people, it's their peers, right? And
Exactly.
that's very motivating.
100%. And there's research to support that. And I know teachers don't need research to tell them that, like, especially teenagers have a very heightened sense and interest in peer evaluation. But yeah, like, can we tap into that to actually motivate kids to want to practice writing? Because, like, again, to Renee's point she brought up earlier, like, what is going to motivate a kid to want to do this in a world where AI can do it for them? And so for me, that piece is like, well, having them write and share it with other kids in their class or in their school is, like, I think, going to be something that motivates kids. And we've heard that from teachers. Like, the kids are motivated to do their best because they know other people are going to see their writing. And it is all anonymous, so we do it in a safe way. But yeah, that's the basics of short answer.
Sean, do I motivate you?
Yes, very much. I'm very motivated by now.
I was curious.
Motivated by fear, being made fun of.
No, if I recall, isn't there like a teeny tiny AI piece in short answer to help, like, to make prompt suggestions or
Yes.
something like that?
And Sean, it not only, I know, no, it is teeny tiny. It is. So right now, the only AI in short answer is when a teacher types in a prompt, we have a feature where they can click sentence stems and outlines. It's like scaffolds for kids. And AI will read the prompt and generate a first pass at, like, sentence stems that the kids could use to help them get started writing, or an outline. Like, if they don't know how to structure the writing, it'll help them with that. But there's more AI coming. Yeah, it's time saving and hopefully scaffolding the writing for kids.
Yeah. Well, like a teacher would do that anyway. And then, so, obviously they're going to know if they're good sentence stems or not from the AI. And so what's the idea? Just to save them time?
Yeah, exactly. To save time, and then also the teacher can see like what kids use what scaffold. So from a formative assessment perspective, it's helpful to see who's needing more support. Um, but I will say, this is maybe breaking news. Um, our next activity, type in short answer, will be an AI feedback activity. Um, and so there will be some AI feedback on student writing in the platform sooner rather than later. And that's growing directly from work that my wife is doing at Stanford right now, but also some research that just came out on um, that AI can provide effective feedback on writing. And so again, we always want to be human to human, but we're looking at how can we augment that human to human process with some AI to make it even more effective, so that it's with students and it's not for students. Kind of going back to that, but so within the next, well, I'll knock on wood here. I don't want to pressure Alexa by publicly putting a date on when we're going to launch this stuff, but within the next few weeks,
True.
yeah, we'll say soon there'll be some AI, much more AI in short answer, because we're becoming a bit more confident about what it can and can't do. Yeah.
Adam,
I have an important question for you.
Oh, I have one too.
Oh, you do yours first.
Was yours related to what he was just saying?
Not at all.
Okay, mine isn't either. I just was loving so much your post about FETC and that teacher that spoke to you about short answer. I wondered if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was at TCEA in Texas, and a teacher came up to our booth. The post is called "Crying in the Vendor Hall," um, and she came up and just shared a story about using short answer in her classroom. So she teaches in South Texas. She just had some new students move in who speak no English, and read no English, fully Spanish speaking students, and so they can't communicate with these students. It's been very challenging. And she talked about how they use short answer, and when the kids submitted their writing and shared it with other people, they use Google Chrome. So their writing was translated to English for English speaking students, and the English writing was translated to Spanish for the new Spanish speaking students. And one of the Spanish speaking students had written a response about how back in Mexico, she was one of the smarter students in school, and she loved school and was viewed as like a great student, and how since moving to the United States, like and not being able to speak the language, everyone looks at her like she's stupid, and how challenging it's been. Um, and the students in the class selected her response as the strongest in the class. And so the teacher was very emotional about that whole experience, and how it has changed the way that her class views that student and how that student interacts with the class. And it's just a really powerful story. And the larger point I was trying to make in sharing it is just, I think is an example of many, of just like the technology, I think, should be primarily focused on, especially ed tech, on improving and building human to human connection in the classroom, to kind of double click on the points that we've already been talking about. And if and when your technology is primarily interested in it, either empowering teachers to better connect with their students, or empowering students to better connect with one another, or the community, or their parents, or whatever, I think those are the tools that can be really transformative. And I'm not just talking about short answer. There are a lot of tools that do a really good job of this. And I think it's important to double click on that in an era of AI, where there are a lot of folks that are building tools primarily interested in a student staring at a screen and chatting with a chatbot, which is fine. But done too much and sort of at scale and writ large, it becomes sort of dehumanizing, and pulls out some of the sort of meat and potatoes that make, what I think should be a very human experience in learning. So I appreciate you bringing up that post, Renee, because that was genuinely like a highlight of my career, was talking to that teacher, and having that interaction, especially having that interaction in the context of a ed tech vendor hall, which is like the exact opposite place that you would normally have a meaningful interaction with someone. So often the ed tech vendor hall is just, oh man, free light up cowboys, being eye contact because I don't want the vendor to. So it was almost kind of hilarious to like have such a meaningful interaction in such a space that frankly is just the opposite of meaningful interaction. Yeah, and I say that as an ed tech vendor, but yeah.
Well, that's a way better question than what I was going to ask, because I think that's a pretty powerful spot to end our chat for today. Like that really did it. I was going to ask you about Bigfoot and your thoughts on Sasquatch, but that would have just been not a good ending. But thank you very much for joining us. This was great. It was awesome. Really fantastic.
Well, it was good to meet you, Michael. Good to see you, Shauna, today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we just got done talking to Adam, and I think we all walked away with some things. So Renee, what was one big thing you took away from that conversation?
This wasn't a big thing, but I just was very surprised that no one's ever asked him to define AI or what AI means to him. I thought that was really interesting that he's never been asked that before. But I really think that he is, and I didn't come away with this, I already knew this, but he just kind of solidified it with me that I think the knee-jerk reaction from teachers is, can you give us a tool that tells us if kids are using AI to do their writing? And that's not the approach. And the fact that he literally created a software to bring teachers back around to the pedagogy of writing and focusing on the process of writing and the authentic audience being their peers, especially middle and high school students. I think that's really the right approach to dealing with AI. And, it's just that panic mode, I think, right now. It's just whenever any new technology comes out, I think teachers panic a little bit. Like, how do I adjust?
It kind of reminds me of like the first time when I was a teacher, I got a document camera, and then you could put the kids writing up under the document camera, and then put another kids up, and you talk about what was good about each of them. It feels kind of like that. Short answer.
Yeah.
Like it's putting the writing in the center.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
But I think him talking about just what I was just saying, it gives me direction again to how to approach this, because I feel like I'm going to be doing the bulk of my work with my English teachers. And so just reminding them again about how we're going to deal with this, whether they use AI in their classroom or not, whether they allow it. The kids are using it. So how do we deal with this and get it so that the kids aren't just using it to write for them?
Yeah. Sean, how about you? What did you take away?
Well, I liked it when he said that people still play chess.
Yeah.
Even though AI has been able to beat people at chess for a long time. He said 10 years, but it feels like longer ago than that. I'd have to look it up. Because I like to create stuff with AI. I've done it for the district, but even though I use AI to make things, it's still like got like a lot of my personality in it. Like having Julia Childs explain state testing.
Yeah, that went over really well. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did for, I'd say, 90% of the people. And then otherwise, it's just too fun for others and doesn't take state testing seriously enough, apparently. But
You're not bitter.
No,
no,
it's good to see you've moved on.
completely over that criticism. But so it, and my using AI to make those videos, it was not a shortcut either. Because I did stuff I couldn't do. There's no way I could have done any of that stuff manually.
Especially because Julia Child's dead.
Right, she's dead, and probably even if she wasn't dead,
she wouldn't
be willing to participate.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just think, like when I showed my friends what I did, they were like, "Oh, Sean's just using AI now to do stuff," and I'm like, it doesn't happen automatically in this case. editing and putting stuff together. So there's a difference between what I was talking about is like Googling something and seeing a bunch of like AI garbage, AI generated pictures and stuff, and then
Right.
using AI to make something that you couldn't before.
Yeah, it's similar to what I pulled out where he was talking about working at the wedding venue, and there was the wedding speech, and whoever gave the wedding speech had AI write it, and he's like, "Why would you do that?" And it's that similar idea of like looking at what we're using AI for, and if it's taking away heart and soul and creativity, then that's probably not where we want to do it. If it's enhancing those things in some way, that's a different road and different path. I thought that was just a really great example of how we can kind of question our motives and how we're using it. Because I agree with you, Sean. Like I've used AI to make things that I couldn't have done on my own. And it was no less effort. In fact, I think it took my thinking to a completely different level that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to. But I also see where it can go that other way really easily. So it's how to navigate that. But that story that he told really resonated with me as a good analogy to give people when they're thinking about how are they using it, particularly in the classroom or with students. And like Renee, you've said this before: is the task that you're providing for students worth anything? Like, is it challenging enough? Is it maybe this is bringing to light some things that we need to look at in terms of cognitive lift and like what's happening in the classrooms and how AI can enhance that. So overall, though, I thought it was an amazing episode. He was fantastic, and probably,
Oh, yeah.
we should have started, somewhere else on our first episode, but he knocked it right out of the park. So we'll see. But
Now we have
Yeah.
nowhere to go but down.
no, we'll keep going up.
No.
Don't put that in the episode.
No, we won't. We'll keep going up.
Conan O'Brien says, never say the show is going poorly.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of experience with that, I think. So
Yeah.
That's very motivational, Sean. Thank you.